The following is a conversation. It has the features of any conversation, such as imperfectly expressed thoughts, ill-considered opinions, and the notions of several sleep-deprived brains. Try not to get your stethoscope in a twist about it.
Walked up to a lemonade stand, and he said to the man running the stand, "Hey, bum bum bum, got any grapes?"
Nice. Did you guys have a happy Independence Day yesterday?
Sorry. Yeah, it was good. I live like right next to the Coralville's Fourth Fest.
Oh.
And so it was very loud.
Yes.
And lots of but it was good. I mean, they bring out, all the kinds of like food vendors and the amusement park rides.
They do pretty good fireworks in Coralville, mm-hmm. I gotta say.
This year they did a karaoke machine, which had some varying talent.
Wait, okay. Because that Fourth Fest is big. It's like karaoke machine in front of just everybody.
Yes.
I usually
they
don't
were
think
some
of,
brave souls.
I usually don't think of the 4th of July as a big karaoke thing, but
well,
not yet.
This is what's wrong.
This is
what's wrong with America these days. Globalization.
Well,
do the Japanese have to be part of American independence?
Well, then you won't like when I say that the karaoke machine was multi-language. So most of the karaoke doers were not doing karaoke in English.
Oh my gosh. For our overseas listeners, Independence Day is the day that we celebrate the liberation of the 13 colonies from an oppressive monarchy that could legally do whatever it wanted. Thanks. So glad we're safe. We're safe from that.
Yeah.
Also, July 4th, I learned from John Oliver, July 4th this year in the UK, they had a general election and overturned the Conservative majority in Parliament.
I know. So there's
also, it was the 100th anniversary of the invention of the Caesar salad.
Wow.
Whoa.
So
I think it only
lots of things to celebrate.
Meandering in the margins of medicine, it's the Shortcoat Podcast.
Weird news,
fresh views,
helpful clues, and interviews.
By students, for students.
Subscribe to our weekly show at theshortcoat.com.
Welcome back to the Shortcoat Podcast. It's a show that gives you an inside look at medical school from the students drinking from that fire hose. It's a production of the University of Iowa Carver College of Medicine. I'm Dave Etler, a man who would have planned the timing of this episode better so that it came out at least 2 weeks ago. With me today in the SCP studio, her eyes are tired from gazing at the stars and bars. It's MD PhD student Miranda Schene.
Hello.
He eats M80s for breakfast and craps out bottle rockets. It's M4 Happy Kumar.
What up?
She's not at all cool with taxation without representation. It's M2 Holly Hemann.
That's me.
I want to remind you, Shortcoats, that we are always excited to offer you advice about medical school, from getting into graduating. We like to take suggestions about other topics we can bring you. So let us know what you want to hear. Go to theshortcoat.com/tell us to make the show your show. Give us some feedback on how we're doing. Whatever you want to. If you want to write into us and ask us, about your rash, we'll do that. Even though we don't give medical advice, we'll do that because sometimes we run out of ideas. And
I'll be the one that is like, hey, that looks like a giraffe, or it looks like a dolphin.
Yeah, like we're looking at clouds.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
we're gonna Rorschach test your rash.
Yeah,
you've been through your dermatology rotation, haven't you?
I have not.
Oh, okay.
So we have zero expertise.
You're welcome.
But we'll try.
We'll try.
Yeah. So go there, do that. Thanks. Self-evaluation.
Oh.
It's a skill, like any other. Some folks think that saying I'm not a racist, but literally means they're not racist. Others spend a lot of time self-evaluating, but still find themselves uttering a halting, mumbling word salad that disappoints everyone and causes them to question your legitimacy as the next president. To both those people, the Am I the Asshole subreddit is your salvation. Holly, as usual, I had to shorten these to a more reasonable length, but jump in with anything important that I had to cut. Is that cool?
Yep, all good.
All right,
So excited.
Which one should we start with? What was your starter?
I think we can go in the order that people experience the medical education system. So we can start with our admissions story.
I love these.
Yeah, to people who didn't listen to our first Am I the Asshole episode yet, you should go listen to that because it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had a good time.
But
I don't know about our listeners, but we had a good time.
We're going to do more.
Yeah.
So This is going to keep being a thing. Send in your Reddit stories if you got any you want us to react to.
Yes.
All right, so we're starting off with AITA friend 1231, who is worried that she doesn't deserve her success. Is that the right one?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
I have a friend from high school who has always wanted to be a doctor. Despite going to different universities, we stay close. She's worked extremely hard, focusing on GPA, MCAT, and extracurriculars for Canadian med school, spending nearly every moment on this goal. In contrast, I'm a huge procrastinator who still manages to score high with minimal effort. Last year, panicked about my future, I considered medicine. Friends, including her, doubted I had the discipline to prepare for the MCAT, and they were right. I studied for only 2 weeks, but still did well. I applied to a school that doesn't consider extracurriculars and got accepted. When I updated my Facebook, everyone was shocked, knowing my study habits. My friend, who was rejected, was upset and said I didn't deserve it given my lack of effort. I feel guilty but still plan to go. Am I the asshole?
Who? Okay.
Can I jump in and say this is a little freaky because I think the person who wrote this might be me from a parallel dimension. I'm a little bit freaked out. I was like, you.
Yeah, there's this thing about deserving success that I'm not sure is, I don't know, that I'm not sure is based in reality. I mean, success happens or it doesn't happen. Sometimes it happens out of happenstance. Yeah. Sometimes it happens out of hard work. I think the world we live in is more out of our control than we like to believe. So we'll start off with a sort of philosophical discussion about that, because I just think that, you can plan, and like your friend, you can plan and you can scheme and connive and, and just do all of the right things. And
I also feel like in the medical school admissions process, it's a lot more of like a game than people like to think it is, where there's a lot of strategy that goes into it versus necessarily just doing the perfect things, quote unquote. Where I feel like, this person, well,
I disagree.
I mean, I think their strategy was applying to the right school.
Like the strategy was like, I know my extracurriculars aren't up to snuff. I need to find places that emphasize test scores higher.
Yeah. Whereas maybe this other friend was applying to the Harvards out there, and it's like, well, sure, you did all the right things, but maybe you're applying to a school that doesn't fit you. Yeah. And I think that's a huge, huge part of admissions.
Yeah. And this like version of, because I also just like testing is just a thing I do well. It's been that way since I was a kid. And I guarantee that, like, I think both of the people in this story are a little bit insecure. And I guarantee to the person who's like worried about like, I feel like I didn't work as hard to get into med school. Med school will make you work hard. It will fill in that blank for you. It's
or you're going to go bye-bye.
Or you're going to leave. Yeah.
Correct.
So
and also like the whole imposter syndrome of it is something you will just continue to feel. I don't know anyone who has not felt that way.
Oh, I know deans who have confessed that they still feel that way. I mean, there's no getting away from it. I think it's part of the human condition. And
So like, and also, to your friend who's like, and I also completely get the feeling of a friend who's like, I worked so hard to get to the same place that you got from like sleeping through every class. And that's not an easy feeling to live with, but also that doesn't invalidate all the hard work you put in. Like, everyone is on their own journey here, and it's so hard not to compare yourself to other people and be like, why did they have it so easy? And I had it so hard. It's like, So it's just, everybody is on their own journey. It's okay. You're fine. Calm down.
Yeah. So I didn't get into med school the first time, just like throwing this out there.
Are you bitter?
No, not at all. But like, I do kind of like understand like the feeling of not like getting rejected and having all your friends get in somewhere. And that really does suck.
Feels like crap, I imagine.
But I still do think that like, not the poster, but like the poster's friend who worked like really, really hard. Yeah, that person's the asshole here.
Making your friend feel bad about their success is where you're being an asshole.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
you can be resentful and like I'm not going to tell you that your feelings aren't valid, but also like don't tell your friend that they don't deserve their success.
Or that they shouldn't go to med school.
Right. Yeah, like that's a shitty thing to say.
Yeah, like you don't take it out on other people, and like especially like in the field of medicine where I feel like you have a bunch of people who are insecure, who do take their egos out on other people. I feel like I have to kind of call that out whenever I see it.
Yeah. Ego is a big problem in medicine for sure.
And I do want to touch upon like some of the points like from earlier, like med school will make you work.
Yeah.
I was like a smart person in undergrad, but like med school like completely like flipped my world upside down. I like didn't do as well, and like I had to change my entire study strategies and everything. And like I'm the common story here. A bunch of people hit that wall.
Yeah.
And if for some reason if you don't hit that wall in med school and you're one of those people who can just like study for 2 days before a test and then ace it, honestly, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you may get to residency and find out that
right.
Yeah. And to be perfectly honest, even if you are a person that's like, I test well, I don't do a lot of other stuff well, everyone evens out because like, maybe you'll breeze through the first, year and a half of, your didactics, your testing thing, but then you have to do your practical stuff. You have to do all the like, hands-on skills. You have to do all of that other stuff, and other people are going to be better at that than you.
I suppose it's hard to fake your way through an anatomy practical, for instance.
Yeah. Or interviewing. You definitely can't fake your way through a simulated patient.
See, I sometimes wonder how much of admissions, despite the hard work that admissions committees do and the hard work that the students do and all that kind of stuff, I sometimes wonder how much of it is just luck, a numbers game.
So much.
So I think just like applying to medical school in general is getting all the boxes ticked, get a high enough MCAT and GPA to where you're not filtered out, get a couple extracurriculars and hours in there to make sure you don't get filtered out, and then write a decent personal statement. And once you get all of that stuff figured out to where you're not closing any doors on you, you apply broadly, and then it's luck to where whoever reads your personal statement wants to grant you an interview. Yeah. And then after that, it's just like, interviewing skills.
It's luck, and it's also the fact that medical schools look for different strengths and weaknesses in their medical students. Like there are like some schools where like I feel like in undergrad, you get this thing of like, oh, I get in this, bracket of schools where it's like I can get into this good school, but not this good school. And you find your level. Not so for medical school. Medical schools look for different things because their programs cater to different strengths. So you might get into like, Harvard, but be not accepted to like your state medical school. And that's just a thing that happens.
It seems very capricious, but
same thing in residency too.
Yeah, it seems very capricious, but I mean, I guess there is somewhat of a method to the madness for sure, because they do try hard to find. The schools do try hard to find students that are compatible with their mission and their belief in how medicine should be.
Because you have to remember, like, that you are paying to go to school there, but also the medical school is like allotting one of their given spots to you. If you like flunk out or you don't succeed, that's on them. And that looks bad for their metrics.
Yes.
So they want you to succeed once you make it there.
So
they're
you
not
deserve
trying to set you up for failure.
So you deserve to have gotten in. Don't make any mistakes about that. You deserve to have gotten in.
Yeah, as long as you didn't like bribe someone, you deserve to get in.
And your school has
little asterisk as long as you didn't cheat.
And your school has made a decision about you that says you're capable of doing this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now you just got to prove them right.
You just got to prove them right. Yeah. And, it's too bad about your friend.
Listen, medical school will make everybody a little bit more mature. Nobody is mature in their
I think that friendship is still salvageable if you can have a discussion about it and this friend can turn around. Because I do think I also did not get into medical school the first time around, and I was bitter about it at the time. Now I'm not so much. I think I grew a lot because of that, but I think I can understand those bitter feelings. I never would have said them aloud to the person I was thinking them about.
What would you say that conversation should look like?
I think to patch things up, you need to like talk about where those feelings are come from, admit that it's insecurity, and like, I'm sorry. An apology needs to kind of happen. Say, I'm sorry. This is why I felt that way. It wasn't about you. It was about me. And just saying like,
so the other person has to apologize.
I think so. Yeah.
I think we're all settled around this table that like, that was
I guess I'm
on the
wondering,
side of the
like,
poster, if they wanted to initiate the conversation, they could say like, hey, could we just like talk about this? I felt weird about this. And I want you to understand like, this isn't a whim that I applied to medical school. Like, I do care about
It kind of
this.
sounded like a whim, though. She's like, I don't know what to do with my life. I know, med school.
But I also feel like
There's
that doesn't actually happen where it's like a last minute decision and then you actually get in.
Like it takes like there's like a 3-month waiting period to get on the MCAT list. Like you have to pay a lot of money to take the MCAT.
And to get the prereqs, like I'm sure they did some sort of science undergrad degree. Like
you never apply to med school on a whim. Like at the very least, it will be in the back of your mind.
Yes.
Because you're gonna have to take your prerequisites for it. Like on the forefront, you're like, oh hey, I like science. I like learning about the mitochondria.
Yeah.
You know?
To me, like I think it was that kind of it sounds to me like that kind of situation where it's just like they were thinking like, oh, maybe I'll do medical school, maybe I'll do dental school, maybe I'll do research PhD.
Yeah.
And they just eventually finally decided to do med school.
Yeah.
How do you think the poster's friend will react if I might take my suggestion, which is to offer to tutor them?
I think that would go badly. Because
badly.
That would go
Tell you
badly.
what, I'll help you.
That just, is going to worsen the insecurity on the other person's side and make the gap of ego kind of bigger, I feel.
I legitimately cannot think of a more asshole-ish move than, hi, we're in the same grade level, taking the same classes. Would you like me to tutor you?
Yeah.
Like, I cannot
I just meant like after the, because they'll be in for a year once this next person starts medical school. So they have like...
I think that needs to be something initiated on the other side of things where it's like...
You guys are taking me way too seriously.
I agree. Like, well, I do think it's a good
stop
question.
acting like an asshole.
I think people can do that. Like, I think when I didn't get in and some of my friends did, after I like chilled for a bit and dealt with my feelings... it was helpful for me to like talk to them and ask like, hey, can you give me advice on my application?
Yeah, like personal statement reading, all that stuff. I think now that's wonderful. I think
now it wasn't a tutoring situation.
Right.
Yeah, tutoring is a different level of.
And also like asking them like hey, how's your medical school? Do you like it? Would you still go here?
Yeah.
Do you mind like I don't know, maybe like you could like I can introduce some of our friends together, right? And then
like what are your classes like? What's your studies like?
And then
what like?
Well said.
Thank you.
And
you sound like me.
Yeah, and like something else that I do want to know.
A worse insult I can't imagine.
And something else I do want to know, like for whoever's listening to this, who is either applying to medical school for the first time or just got rejected and is applying for the second time. And I'm not the only person in this podcast right now. I didn't get in the first time, and
I would say that maybe
a lot of people
don't. I mean,
a good chunk.
And I don't regret my gap year at all. I actually am happy that I ended up taking that gap year because it provided me like a break from all this madness and everything, and I don't regret it at all. I ended up getting into like a better school than all the ones that I applied to the
which
first
one was
time.
that? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know, some random ass school in the Midwest.
It's like a weird like Central America.
Central America.
Please, for the love of God, cut that out. Please,
I think they like grow potatoes here. I don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm happy where I'm at, and I don't regret it at all. And I just wanted to throw that in there. That like it's not all over. Don't give up on your dream, and you can do it.
You can do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Well said.
Good luck with that.
All right. Well, moving forward then in our journey through the medical education system, we're going to move into the preclinical years and talk about, am I the asshole in an anatomy class?
Ooh.
Nice. We're getting some good variety here.
Here we go.
Say, I'm excited.
I'm a new anatomy professor at a local medical school, teaching a class of 26 students. One student has a type of spondyloarthritis, which she mentioned before. While teaching about joints and related pathologies, I asked her to come forward. I explained how spondyloarthritis affects joints, causing inflammation and fusion, and often impacts the pelvic area, vertebrae, and elbows. I used her condition as an example, mentioning she can't move her head or back freely due to ankylosing spondylitis. My assistant whispered to me, concerned, as I noticed the weird faces they were making. I then finished explaining and thanked the student. She was very red, and for some reason, embarrassed. I don't understand why. After they left, my assistant in the lab told me that what I just did was crazy, and I was at fault for doing this to her. I don't understand what's wrong here, though. We are all here to learn.
Oh my God, you're the asshole. Oh my God.
There are multiple reasons why this person's an asshole.
God.
Now,
Oh my God.
this is kind of this is kind of the reason I wrote things about self-evaluation.
Yeah. Oh
And I
my
know that's
gosh.
hard for some people to understand what's happening around them, to interpret, to read the room, and to decide, is this action going? So,
Not
I
just read
don't
the room,
want to
but
shit
also,
on
like-
everybody completely. I know that there are people out there who have legitimate trouble with this from a
But like,
neuro.
you made it to your professorship and you somehow like failed basic empathy.
And
Like,
I think
I'm
also
so
the fact that
confused.
so many other people in that room were uncomfortable, and she noticed they were uncomfortable and
Yes.
didn't stop.
Yeah,
No,
it's
it
not- it's
sounds
not
like she
later
noticed that they were
Yeah, it
that
wasn't
they were
like, oh, later,
experiencing
it's like,
some
oh,
sort
shit.
of emotion, but weren't sure what that emotion was.
Yeah.
Hey, so not only am I going to out my student for having this rare medical condition,
Yeah,
Which is against the law.
Which is
yeah,
against
I'm pretty
the law.
sure that was like
I'm-
that's a violation of that student's privacy. She could
Yeah.
probably sue.
I'm also gonna,
Use-
call this student out for having like quote a weird pelvis at one point.
Got that.
All right, and do that in front of the entire class. And I'm not gonna understand why someone explains to me why I'm wrong
because
Yeah.
we're all here to learn.
We're all
Because-
here to learn.
because we're all here to learn. I mean, I would have been good with that.
It's very
you
weird.
know?
It's very weird to even consider the idea of using your student as a living
my
anatomy.
That's
gosh.
exactly what I
Yeah.
was thinking. Where it's like I'm thinking of when we have, because we do have anatomy sections of like weird, like they have brains that have certain types of damage or like certain types of cancer, so that we can learn the pathology. And I can't imagine, especially because it doesn't even sound like this person asked the student for their permission. And I'm assuming they didn't, but just to use them as basically a living anatomical specimen.
What anatomy are you seeing? Because you're not cutting into her.
True. Yeah.
So it's just like, couldn't you
Yeah,
just
she didn't,
show
like,
a YouTube video?
Yeah.
Hi, student. Can you arch your back? See
Yeah.
the decreased range of motion there.
It's like, is
just
that
like, real
helpful
quick.
to anyone?
Yeah, real quick. Hey, everybody, come here. Check out the
Yeah.
student's up back.
It's like you wouldn't bring like someone who had a stroke in and not look at their images to learn about stroke, you know?
Because it's like you can just Google ankylosing spondylitis X-ray. That's going to
Yeah.
be way more helpful and also not violate someone's privacy. Because I don't know for sure how the professor even found out about this condition. What I fear is that it was like the student probably put this in as like a medical accommodation of like there's certain bits of this anatomy I can't do.
Oh.
And if
Oh.
that's the case, this is definitely a crime.
Yeah. I was
That's even worse.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking too that it's like an accommodations kind of thing. If they have limited range of motion and can't do certain things.
So
then
what
they
I
probably
think about how accommodation should work is that if you're a student and you're seeking accommodations, right? You go to certain people, maybe in our case, the counseling center or whatever, and you go through whatever process there is to get accommodations. The counseling center does not pass on the name of your condition.
Yeah, so I think that differs though based on school. From my understanding of it, at Iowa, they are not allowed to pass on your diagnosis.
Yeah, we don't talk about diagnosis. We talk about the student. The student may need accommodations to do X activity.
Yeah,
Sure. Okay. Fair enough.
So like, it wouldn't say on the letter that any of the teachers get.
But you think maybe not all schools do
Yeah,
it
not
that
all
way.
schools do that. And also,
Ugh.
if the student themselves disclosed it to the professor as like
Yeah.
a way of getting maybe temporary accommodations at the beginning of class or something like that,
That's how I read it, but
then that's possible
that,
too.
That could
But-
be. In which case, that's slightly less of a crime. Still entirely unethical.
Yeah.
Like I want to
hey,
say,
you're screwed up. Come up here and let me show
Yeah.
people
yeah,
how.
still not cool.
I think we're all in consensus that the poster is an asshole.
Correct.
But what we're wondering on is if this is unethical at best or this is a crime at worst. And that's the range that we're arguing at.
Yeah.
the assholishness is decided. What we're now asking is, should you be sued? And it's not really a good place for you to be.
like federally charged with a FERPA
Lock
violation.
them up. Yeah.
This when I read this, I was like, well, this is obvious. But I also concerned that this person, this professor, is just not up to the task of like
doing sensitive anatomy. Because
right,
anatomy is a really
What?
sensitive subject to teach, especially when
Yes.
you're doing like cadaver lab.
Yeah.
Yeah. So weirdly enough, the only example that like I feel like the professor would understand, because I don't think they have any empathy here. And like they're like, oh, this is just a medical condition or whatever. Like, how could someone be uncomfortable by this? But like to me, it's like, hey, like, what if like one of your students or yourself had like a micro penis, and you're like, hey, why don't you just drop your pants off in front of the entire class? And show off to everyone you have that.
I feel like that's a valid technique, Happy, for like understanding the impact of your decisions. Is to go to a certain extreme and go. And I do this all the time. And like, I just think it's a very reasonable technique to figure out, like, are you edging into the world of maybe being not cool?
Of kind of sexual assault there.
Are you edging
We're
into
all
the
here
world
to
of maybe
learn,
being
though.
not cool?
But like again, like the comments on like the pelvis, like to me, like it already is a little bit like
it's already just it's oh god, I'm imagining myself in the position of like not only being that student but also being everybody else in the class, being like like, because you don't want to interrupt your professor and tell them that, especially in an intro to anatomy class, but also just like, I don't really want to be here right now.
What's amazing to me is that it got as far as this professor posting on Reddit.
Exactly.
Like no one came up
but
to
no one said.
Well, they did come up to her. She just still refuses to acknowledge that
exactly.
it's bad.
Well, I'm also
Everybody else
thinking
is
that
the
if
problem, not me.
If I were that student, I would be like trotting right off to the dean's office. And
Oh,
saying,
for
hey, like,
sure. Yeah,
I would be going straight to the MSCC to cry for a bit, and then to the deans.
I would drop my anatomy knife and then grab my other
drop my pants and get my
grab my throwing knife.
In my personal opinion, and I'll toss this out to the group, bare minimum what should happen here is, like, because this person was told by their assistant, like, because I can actually kind of see, especially, you know, people don't read the room sometimes, but, you know, they realize after the fact, like, oh, I messed up. They go and make an apology to the student and they say, like, I'm so sorry I put you in that position. It's not going to happen again.
And you get an A.
Yeah.
No.
And you get an automatic A. Congratulations. But since that didn't happen, like, bare minimum, she should get a visit from the dean.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
bare minimum to say, like, here are all the reasons. Like,
About some sensitivity training.
Yeah, it's like, you are in trouble. Don't do it again, or there will be further consequence. Like, bare minimum, what should happen there?
Correct.
I'm so sorry. That's just completely unacceptable.
Oh yeah.
Well, all right.
Well, all right, we're all in agreement there. So
Who's in the middle? Go team.
now
Go team.
Woo! So now we're gonna move on to some family drama, I guess, around medical education.
Yeah.
That's the best intro for this.
Excited for this.
My brother and I both have or are working towards master's degrees, and our parents threw parties and gave us large gifts when we were accepted into our programs. Our sister just got into medical school, and our parents are planning a similar party for her. She wants a cruise instead of a local event, but our parents said it's too expensive. She argued that medical school is a greater accomplishment than graduate school, deserving a bigger celebration. I disagreed, saying medical school isn't inherently better. She claimed she'll make more money and be expected to do more for our parents, so she deserves the better party. I called her ridiculous and full of herself.
Our parents ended the conversation, planning to discuss her party privately. Later, my sister and I argued again. She said she'll lose the financial benefit of living at home since she'll have to move for medical school. I said that didn't mean she deserved a cruise, and it was wrong to say her accomplishment is greater. She claimed it's harder to get into even the worst medical school than the best master's program in education. I flipped her off and went to my room.
I'm wondering if I was overly sensitive and took her words to heart more than I should, or if she's being condescending.
I mean, kind of a little bit of both, but
Everyone kind of
like,
sucks here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
No, I'm still gonna call with your. I'm still gonna call with the sister's the asshole. I'm saying that, like, if she's asking if she's being like overly sensitive, like maybe a little, but like the sister is still in the wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think also, like, if her parents are setting that boundary of like, this is the budget, to like say, I need bigger, is a bit much.
It's presumptuous.
Let's not lose context here. The question is like, no, I want a bigger party than my siblings. It's like, okay, no one likes you.
That's a really hard
I
argument
also think
to make.
like
That's really
true.
hard. Yeah, that's rough.
master's programs are hard to get into. I did a master's program before medical school. it was hard to get. I mean, clearly medical school was hard to get into because I had to apply twice, but it's a different game.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
with
it
master's
also,
programs.
yeah, I think that's the
and it's
element
like,
here.
yeah,
It does
'cause
not matter.
You're just celebrating the accomplishment, which all of those are accomplishments, master's degrees, medical school, whatever.
Yeah, and like as someone who has like a lot of friends who aren't in medicine, like, and who did do like master's programs and a bunch of like, I'm gonna be honest, frankly cool shit.
Yeah.
That like I'm really excited to hear them talk about because I don't understand what they talk about a lot of the time, so I'm excited to learn. But like none of this is like a measuring contest, all right? We're all like on the struggle bus together, or we're all thriving together. You can be happy for each other's like successes, and you could be like sad for each other whenever we fail.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like that's just kind of like the bottom line. Like you just don't compare yourself to like your friends or your family because you just go through different things.
Yeah, and I think there's a big transactional component too to this story of like, I'm going to be expected to like be our parents' retirement plan. Therefore, they should pay me now.
Yeah.
So
I would
that
also
I'll pay
argue
them later, which is just like,
I feel
that's
like
not
I would
being
also just from a basic like financial standpoint, if your parents are throwing you big parties and giving you big gifts, and that you think a cruise is among the possibilities, I'm not sure that your parents need your help in retirement.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to be okay.
That's very fair.
Yeah. And it also, I feel like we can circle back a little bit to that insecurity we were talking about with the first question of like, she's so dead set on being like, no, what I did was harder than what you did. And it's like, there's that little level of like, I'm not totally sure what my worth is beyond my accomplishments. So I need to make sure that my accomplishments are bigger than yours because otherwise I feel inferior.
Yeah.
I'm translating for this person I don't know's internal monologue. I hope that's chill.
I think it's possible that there's insecurity on both sides, to be fair too, of like feeling the poster is maybe being a little overly sensitive slightly because they're insecure too, that like their sister got into med school, which is like outwardly like in society people are going to like comment on more often and be more interested in, because people don't tend to understand grad school as well as they understand like what being a doctor is.
Yeah.
So I think there's probably some insecurity there too of just like.
Yeah. And it should point out that the poster did make this like, was kind of insecure to the point where they made this post being like, wait, am I wrong? Like, is she actually better than me?
I sometimes wonder how many of these posts though are like, I know I'm right, but
sometimes it is, but like I feel like sometimes also as someone who has made a post at Am I the Asshole under a incognito name.
I'm gonna find it.
I'm not telling you. But I do feel like there's an element of like the negative, I call them brain gremlins, but like the negative self-talk brain gremlins get to you. And you're just kind of like, I'm 90% sure I'm right, but let me just check with the outside world real fast and just make sure I'm not deluding myself.
Sure, and that's fine. That's why this exists.
Yeah, the brain gremlins. Listen, poster, the brain gremlins got to you, but it's okay. You're doing fine. Your sister maybe needs to calm down a little bit. And also, it kind of sounds like she's a bit of a spoiled brat. She'll grow out of it. Med school will beat that out of her. Don't worry about it.
I think it's a pretty good summary, honestly.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think a lot of posts on like r/am I the asshole fall into one of two categories. It's either people like not this post, but the previous one whose their heads are so far up their asses that they have no empathy at all and are struggling with it. Yeah. Or it's people who have way too much empathy, who have empathy for the worst situations and start second guessing themselves, even though they're very clearly good people, and that second guessing is why they're on here.
Yeah, it's like you will see some Am I the Asshole posts where it's like, hey, my husband like slept with my sister and now is telling me that I'm being overly sensitive for wanting to like go to counseling. Am I the asshole? And it's like,
you know what? I have a story like that. Maybe we'll do it next time we do an Am I the Asshole?
Well, then.
Just tease us like that.
All right. Well, on to our next one now that we all have discussed that one. So our next one is going to center on practicing in medicine and specifically some possible medical malpractice.
Ooh,
nice.
Juicy.
We're getting a bunch of good variety here.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
I, a post-op trans woman, had a UTI that didn't clear up with antibiotics. I also have lupus nephritis and am on immunosuppressive drugs. Lab results showed severe infection, but my primary care doctor required an in-office visit for more antibiotics. The infection worsened, causing kidney pain, so I went to the ER. I was treated by Jim.
a cis man who is a transphobic family friend.
Oh, good.
He said a male wouldn't get a UTI and insisted it was a kidney stone, even after I showed him lab proof. After a CT scan showed no stones, he discharged me. The next day, urgent care sent me to the ER again, where I almost died from a severe kidney infection and spent over a month in the hospital. I've contacted lawyers to sue for medical malpractice, but my family and boyfriend call me an asshole for it. I need financial help due to medical debt and potential job loss. Later, my parents invited Jim to their house while I was visiting and pressured me not to sue.
Oh, good.
I cried and cursed him out for almost killing me. My boyfriend is not talking to me, needing space. AITA for suing a family friend?
Dear
How can
Lord.
I fix things with my boyfriend?
Don't.
So many assholes. There are so many assholes.
So many assholes.
Yeah, a lot going on.
I just want to say real quick to our listening audience, you might have heard us chuckling during this very depressing question. The AI was getting some of the words wrong, and we were chuckling at the AI.
Yeah, so for the AI to like be reading this out loud, it has to do things phonetically. So instead of it being like ER, like the two letters, it would just come off as So it had to be written as EEE. On like ARE.
Yeah.
So ER, which is why we were chuckling.
We were chuckling. We were chuckling.
Do you put
at
this
the
into
AI.
the YouTube video? Of,
I
like,
will, but I'll probably adjust this. I was running out of time.
So
but anyway, you're fine. Please sue the pants off of this asshole and maybe break up with your boyfriend.
Yeah. So two things like came across to me. One, that's definitely like some form of medical malpractice, or at least very shitty doctoring.
Yes.
Because like people, regardless of your gender identity, you can get a UTI.
Yeah.
I mean,
right?
And regardless of your even if you're a cis man, you can get a UTI.
You can get a UTI.
Yes.
Men can get UTIs. It's more
Is it
rare,
more
but you
common
can get...
in women, though?
Yes.
It is, because penises are self-cleaning.
Yeah, and
the urethra is a lot longer, so bacteria has to travel a lot farther. But.
Yeah, so like
Something
if you are
about
a
that
cis
phrase
man,
brought me up short, but yes.
Yeah,
right. Like if you are a cis
that was
man,
the intention.
like that gets classified as a complicated UTI.
Yeah.
And you're immediately given like just like more than just like the usual like cranberry juice and like rest or whatever. So like no matter what, like this, like there was like some really shitty
you need to be more
doctoring
specific
going on
about
here.
that medical advice. Like, just get in a bath of cranberry juice and relax.
Right, but like
for your UTI.
right, but anyway, so
swap your UTI
so you're
out
not
for a
the-
yeast infection. Hey.
yeah, so the poster is definitely not the asshole
Correct.
for suing.
Yes.
I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
But whenever I was reading this, there was a lot of like I just remember like reading the actual post. There was a lot more talk about needing the financial help, losing the job, not like getting along with like the family as much. And so I was wondering a little bit of like if we're not hearing anything like from the poster's perspective.
Oh,
that
there's a lot we're not hearing.
Yeah. There's a lot that we're not hearing. I feel like from the family and the boyfriend's perspective, and it seems a little bit weird. But just from the medical perspective, yeah, the poster isn't the asshole here.
I would
agree.
As far as things that we're not hearing, I have to imagine that the family is not especially supportive of their trans child.
Yes.
And yeah, Jim is definitely getting the benefit of the doubt from the family, which
100%.
I can't really support in this situation.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what the boyfriend's deal is.
I kind of wonder if that's where the financial aspect comes into play, if maybe he is a financial support for her. And so maybe there's some other strains on this relationship that we're not fully hearing about.
Yeah, there was like talks about like not like doing well at the job and like needing to take time off.
Maybe he's concerned about like the financial aspect of hiring a lawyer to deal with this malpractice case, and like it might not come to anything too, like and so then you're wasting money, quote unquote, on a lawyer,
which is kind of funny because this feels like a pretty solid, like if this were just a question of like, you know, the ER did what they thought was best and it turned out that they missed an infection, then like maybe it'd be a little bit more.
This guy didn't even try.
Yeah, didn't even try, and also came to the ER saying, "Hey, I have a UTI. I need antibiotics," and we're disregard. That to me is the damning part, because like I feel like ER, unfortunately, deservedly or not, and we can debate that, gets a little bit of a bad reputation for just like shooing people out the door and completely missing really life-threatening stuff, which is sad because that's the field I'm interested in. And I'm just
I think she even brought in lab results.
Yeah.
So I think when you're bringing in lab, even if it's an outside lab and whatever, you want to recheck them, you should recheck them there and make sure that this is good, you know? You don't just say like, oh, that's not right, and not even check.
So again, coming off of step 2, all right? So you have someone on immunosuppressive medications, which makes them more susceptible to infection. Someone who
totally forgot about the immunosuppressive. That's also bad.
And they already have like, chronic, like some form of chronic kidney disease here, right?
Yep.
I think the CT was warranted to rule out kidney stones, either CT or an ultrasound.
Sure.
But you also need like at this point, a UTI should be on your differential.
Yep.
You probably would get your own urine analysis in there and maybe like a urine culture on your own. And once you rule out the CT, you would give antibiotics for the UTI, which I assume would show up positive.
And I also think, so this is something that was in the longer post, they mentioned that they have lupus and that they have chronic kidney issues from lupus. And so they've suffered chronic UTIs for a long time, even before their transition. And so it's also like, if that's in your medical history, that is worth checking every time, you know, that
it's
you
also
have
like you
back
got like
pain and stuff like that.
You basically got like 3 giant red flags for a kidney infection, and you didn't check for a kidney infection. That's that's pretty bad, fam. Pretty bad.
I was, like recently, my family had a medical emergency. Somebody in my family had a medical emergency. We had to go to the ER. I was very happy to see people I knew in the ER, like working that night. Shout out to Chris. This is not a case where I would be, oh great, it's Uncle Jim. Yay, Uncle Jim's here. I'd be like, can I get a new
I would
person?
actually prefer to be seen by a different doctor. Thank you. Which
I also think maybe should have been what happened too at this ER of like they came in and they're like, I know this person, can I get a different doctor?
Well, also the doctor should have recused themselves as well, where it's
like there is a conflict of interest there.
There's medical ethics.
Whether it's in a positive or negative way, like even if it was like I went in and it was my mom who, I have a positive relationship with, it would still be like, oh, I don't want you to do my eval.
You're not allowed to do that. It's like a thing.
Sue the family friend.
Sue the family friend. Also
into the ground.
Also, like, what in the world was the family thinking inviting the family friend over to dinner?
That sounds like they were trying to do an intervention, basically, being like,
I think that
let's help them bury the hatchet.
I'm with Dave on this one.
That's a harder relationship to me to recover, is the one with the family breaking your trust versus the boyfriend. Because I think the boyfriend issue seems like there's some deeper things that we just need they need to work out.
Or versus not. Like, I'm gonna go with or not.
If this is the only thing you guys are fighting about, then I think that'd be odd to me, I guess.
Right.
But I think the family one, it sounds like, is more of a like they clearly seem to value Jim more than you, which is like that's harder to me to deal with and recover from. But
because like, and also completely unethical of Jim, where it's like, I have a patient who like, I fucked up. This patient got hurt because I fucked up. The correct response is to apologize, say, they actually don't they go through this? So like they go through how to like make this apology.
They sure do.
There's like ways to handle this, and basically
caps too, baby.
It's been a while, but it's like don't try and convince them not to sue you. Like if the patient wants to sue you, that's their decision. You don't get to decide that because you fucked up.
And going to their home too. I think
going to their home is just like, why?
If you're gonna have that conversation about a lawsuit, have it at the hospital, have it at a professional place.
Like at the lawyer's office. For the love of peace.
This is such a good case for whoever wants to represent the poster.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Every malpractice like lawyer in the state is going to be like, give it.
Hey, not only did like, the doctor just like basically go against standard of care, but they also like show up to my house after to like coerce me.
So I would also like to add on harassment to this as well.
It's a pretty textbook case, I feel, of lots of medical malpractice that is pretty easy to prove.
It's like this with medical malpractice. Just
easy money for those lawyers.
Easy money, especially because 9 times out of 10, isn't it true that medical malpractice gets settled outside of court? It's like the hospital's going to be tripping over themselves to settle this one because they do not want this going to court by any means.
So you mentioned apology.
Yes.
And how to.
Yes.
What is the how-to here that you remember?
If I recall correctly, and these people have taken CAPS too sooner than I have, but basically it's just like acknowledging the mistake, not trying to justify your response, but basically just saying, I'm sorry, I messed up. I'm going to use this to try. I won't let this happen again in the future. I don't think you're supposed to offer like anything I can do, but basically just like
they do say that you should list or talk a bit about like what you're gonna do to fix it, like whether it's you're leaving the care team or you're gonna do XYZ, whatever.
Okay, so
or it's like implementing like this safety procedure in the future to make sure this doesn't happen again, and just like you'd apologize to a friend.
All right, so for reference, I am a cis het man.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So, but like from reading this post, I think the one thing that's clear to me is that the poster is trans, and this is like a pretty common experience for trans people in healthcare.
Yeah.
So I think that some form of the apology, and kind of building on to what you guys are saying, needs to involve Jim realizing that he might have those biases, and also attempt to get rid of those biases. And it's such a way of like understanding the trans experience, meeting more trans people, going to reading memoirs, and really kind of like it again, like just attempt to understand the experience, and acknowledge his bias and try to work towards giving like equal care to people regardless of their gender identity and expression, because you should not have a patient come in and say, "Man, I feel like the doctor would have treated me differently if I was a different race, if I was a different gender, if I was a different person, XYZ." Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's a similar concept to like what we talk about in upstander training with like racism in medicine and that kind of bias. It's the same concept, just applied to something else.
And again, just like take what I said with like a grain of salt. I am like, again, a cis het man.
I don't think that what you're saying is weird though. I feel
like but that's like my read on it.
General.
I just feel like you're supposed to treat whoever comes in the door. Really,
I do think
exactly.
Allow this panel of cis people to talk about issues in trans healthcare, please.
See, so again,
that is the thing too. Is like there's a lot of really great resources out there to learn about transgender healthcare too.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's a lot more people publishing on the topic and setting guidelines. And I think this person, who knows how old they are when they went to medical school, a lot of older doctors
30.
probably didn't get any education about it.
Oh,
he's a 30-year-old. He's a 30-year-old man.
In the actual,
there's no excuse.
I thought you said like, he got his medical license in 1930, and I was like, okay, that's fair. That's understandable.
No, so like, go read up on transgender healthcare. Go read up on how a UTI works too, because it's like it's not. I also I'm sure it seems like transphobia is a huge problem here, but just it's good to know that anyone with a urinary tract can get a UTI.
Just the basics of UTIs here, my guy.
You have a urinary tract.
It's just like,
that's just kind of like being human, isn't it? It's like if you have a body part, you can get an infection in that body part. And I'm so sorry to have to tell you this.
If there's one thing to learn from this like entire podcast, it is yes, you can get an infection there.
Yes, you can get an infection there. Just go get tested. Please go get tested.
All right. I think we're on the last one.
Yes, we are. Nice. So our last one is taking a bit of a turn, and it's a bit of a comparison between, two of Iowa's favorite healthcare professions, MD and PA.
I will note also that I finally figured out how to cause the AI to pronounce abbreviations correctly, which is to expand them into not abbreviations. Okay, here we go.
My daughter wants to be an obstetrician-gynecologist, but she fears blood and guts, isn't good with her hands, and can't think on her feet.
Okay.
She is also not good at science, so I believe that she would be better at being a physician assistant than a doctor. I know what it's like to not be good at science. I studied nursing at a community college, and I got all C's and D's. My daughter got A's and B's in science, but an equal amount of both. I told her this, and she got mad at me, but I'm just telling the truth. My friend is an obstetrician-gynecologist and has always had great dexterity, aced all her science classes, and is very decisive.
Okay, so I have two things immediately to say. The first one is, it sounds like you hate your daughter.
Yeah.
The second one is, it sounds like you don't understand what a PA is.
So I'm really bad at science. I got all C's and D's. but you got all A's and B's.
But you're also not good.
But you're also not good at science because I'm not good at science, even though you got better grades than me.
Yeah. And also, you're not good with your hands. You can't think on your feet.
Yeah, I was going to say, shout out to the poetry of like, not good with your hands, can't think on your feet. Just like, let's find fault with every body part.
I have a parental perspective on this. Am I the asshole? Which is that sometimes as parents, we project ourselves onto our children.
Mm-hmm.
And never has this come up more for me as a parent than during the search for a college. Because I was a dumbass in college. And I'm concerned that my offspring might also be a dumbass in college. Now, because they're not smart or because they're not hardworking.
Because they got your genes.
Because they came from me, a dumbass in college. And so I know that when we were having these conversations about careers in college and all that kind of stuff, I did tell them not to do what your dumbass dad did, which I think is a positive way of dealing with projection.
Yeah. Just being like, even if you probably won't need this lesson, I'm going to teach you this lesson because I am your dad and that is my job description.
That is my job.
Yeah.
And also,
I think the thing about this one that grinds my gears and makes me feel like it's not a positive thing of saying, you know, I do think it's important for parents to help children define what their skills are and figure out themselves and their identity and support, like, maybe you're better at X, Y, and Z. And so here are some things that you can do to continue those skills and stuff like that. But I think the part about this that makes me feel like it's not a constructive critique is the fact that they say they should be a physician assistant instead of a doctor, which requires the same prereqs and the same career. You're not doing surgery, I guess.
And the same blood and guts.
Yeah.
The same blood and guts.
It's like the only thing that a PA doesn't do, the MDs do, is surgery, like solo surgery.
Yeah.
which, speaking of which, how do you guys feel about blood and guts? I mean, or have you heard of classmates who are like oogie with it?
Yes, me, and I got over it.
Yeah.
Because it turns out, like, I feel like, at least for me, I won't speak for everybody else, but at least for me, when I entered, I was a lot more squeamish, but going through anatomy and then going through clinical rotations where you see like gruesome stuff, it's kind of like you see it once and the first time you see it, you're like, oh my God. And then after that, it's like, oh, I've seen this before. Or there's also the element of, you know, when you're in an ER situation, when you're in a surgery situation, it's like, it's not unexpected that you're going to see it.
Yeah.
And also, it's not unexpected and you have a job. So it's not like, oh my gosh, the gore is everywhere. What do I do? It's like, no, the gore is here and I have to put this gore over here in order to fix it.
Yeah. I also think there's different ways to be grossed out in medicine where, like, I am a blood and guts gal. I am totally fine with blood and guts.
Nice.
Yeah.
Always have been.
I don't know why I said that. That was weird.
It has never bothered me.
Yeah.
But what does bother me is anything going into an eyeball.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
same.
I
Yeah.
cannot handle it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that have, you know, different things that they come to learn that just make them like,
I had a very, I'm not a
Mine's
medical
fingers.
student.
Mine's
I had a
fingers.
very visceral reaction to facelift.
Ooh,
Facelift
yeah, those are
video on
disturbing.
YouTube. I was just
Yeah.
like, nope, I'm out. I'm
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, that doesn't make you a worse doctor or worse medical student. It just means, you know, maybe there's certain things that you have to either grow through or avoid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It just means you won't go into ophthalmology.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
it's like, that's fine.
So
Other people go into ophthalmology.
Yeah.
Like I've heard from some people who it's like, you know, vomit is fine, pee is fine, poop is fine. I can't do pus. Like there's just like, even just it gets
Yeah.
down that granular where you
Everyone
just learn
tends
this
to have
about
their
yourself.
their thing.
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
can define.
So I'm good with blood. I can do pus, but like I don't like any of like the poop stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
So no GI for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. But I feel like you have to at least be like have like a baseline level of like just being comfortable with like blood and guts in general to get to that
Yeah.
point, because no matter what, you're probably gonna be seeing blood.
Yeah.
You might not
Yeah.
be seeing like a crazy amount of blood in some
Yeah.
fields, but like you at least expect it.
But like
Also,
Miranda said,
let's-
it's something like you can grow to be accustomed to.
Right.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like blood is not actually that gross when you're in just like a surgical situation and it's
Yeah.
like it doesn't smell bad.
It's also, I think,
just liquid.
Before
Like, it's
medical
fine.
school, most people's experience with blood is their own,
Mhm.
which
Oh,
you
Oh,
have different
yeah.
reactions with than you do to other people's blood, which I think people don't realize necessarily.
So
Yeah.
Let's.
yeah. Anyway, but like just 1 second, Dave, but just like kind of tying it back to like your example, like whenever you talk about like you and your daughter and like, you know, helping her like apply to college and find good places to go to, right? Like you reference yourself and like the mistakes that you made, but like the vibes that like come across with that are like, hey, I made mistakes. I don't want you to make those same mistakes, and you're like empowering her in a way to learn from what you did.
That's my goal,
right? Which is whereas like this poster seems to be, oh, I made those mistakes. You're gonna make those same mistakes.
Yeah.
Don't even bother trying. And I feel like the poster is shutting down her daughter instead of empowering her.
Yeah, I think in general, if you're ever on the side of telling someone 100% don't follow your dreams, don't even try, I think you're probably in the wrong.
You have cast yourself in the role of villain in a Disney movie.
Unless someone's dream is to be a serial killer, I think let them dream.
You can dream, just don't do it.
Do you guys, I wanted to talk about the blood thing and fainting, because I believe that is a common experience.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's probably not a personal failing, but more of a physiological response to your brain doing something. Does anybody know the mechanism behind this, or if we even know?
Yeah. So again, that's something that happens almost always with your own blood. Not seeing other people's blood. Some people do experience it with other people's blood, but
I've
that's
heard
a
of
lot
people
less
passing
common.
out in the ER, and from a surgeon once told me, you know, it doesn't really, from her experience, it didn't really matter like if it was a man or a woman, if it was a tough guy, or
the tough guys are worse.
It was like, it just was like, some people, it happens.
Yeah.
And anyway, go ahead.
Your autonomic nervous system goes nuts is basically the mechanism.
It's like allergies where it's like, oh no, pollen. But
I think it's like
autonomic nervous system just being like, nope, upright is not an option.
Yeah, it's usually your heart rate will speed up, so your sympathetic nervous system gets overactive seeing blood. And so then your heart rate speeds up to the point where you can't control it. And so your body makes you pass out to make your heart rate lower.
It wants you to get down on the ground, basically.
I do love that, because your sympathetic nervous system is the one that's like, oh no, a tiger.
Yeah, fight or flight. Fight or flight, more like fall down.
Yeah, it's like, hang on.
I think
time out. Hang on, tiger.
I think this aspect of the brain neurology is fascinating. I did read recently about ants.
We're going in this direction.
We are going in this
podcast.
direction.
Okay.
I read, in fact, last night I did post it in the group chat, but I'm sure nobody read it. About ants ants know whether they need to amputate or treat due to an infection. If it's in a certain part of the leg, I think that, well, I can't remember. If it's in a certain part of the leg, they will amputate. If it's in another part of the leg, they will treat and wait and see. An ant has no brain at all.
Yeah.
To speak of, right? I mean, they got a couple neurons up there.
Okay, well, first of all, rude. But
I mean, and what's fascinating to me about that is, I feel like a lot of behavior is like, we like to think of ourselves as higher creatures that, you know, that do things because we have reasons that are legitimate. And I'm not so certain all the time that that's true. I think we make up reasons afterwards for a lot of the things that we do.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I can't remember how this exactly related to what we were just talking about.
I think
Dave,
the world
just
would be
wanted to talk
better.
about ants.
I really did.
I think the world would be better if we were more like ants. You know, they're super strong. They are very communal creatures, so they always, you know, build together a community. And, you know, now they're better at medicine than us of preventing infection.
Oh, I know.
So
what it
I'm going to be honest here. All I've been thinking about is that like that DreamWorks movie called Ants?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's spelled with a Z. And yeah, that's...
No, that's the other one. So there were 2 Ants movies that came out the same year. One of them was like a Pixar Disney and the other was DreamWorks. One of them's the Z and one of them's
was Bug's Life, which was my favorite movie as a kid.
Yeah.
But Dave, will you allow me to pitch a different media service?
I love it.
Because you guys know who Hank Green is?
Yeah.
Hank Green has a comedy special that just released on Dropout, which has a whole section about ants in it and how like some ants are like cancer. And that's all I'm going to say. It's very good.
Okay.
Yeah, his comedy special is fantastic.
It's,
really,
from the
really,
clip,
it's
I think I know
good.
why I brought it up, because fainting is actually a logical response to seeing blood. Your body wants you to get down on the ground. It wants your blood pressure to rise. It wants, you know, so fainting is a logical response. You might ascribe failure to somebody who faints at the sight of blood, you know, some sort of problem with them. But they're actually doing what's very logical. all completely automatically, right?
Yeah.
And like if you are the kind of person that knows that they pass out every time they see blood, that would be the one situation, to get back to this question, where I would say maybe like actually what I would probably recommend was like do some shadowing at the ER, do some shadowing, like see if you can shadow a surgeon, like see if this is a ongoing problem that you can get used to, because if you are trying to go to med school, that will be an issue.
A lot of people can train themselves to get over that reflex.
A lot of people can.
But yeah, if you're determined enough. I mean, a lot of people just decide, I'm not going to do anything with blood. But if you really want to do something in medicine, it's not impossible also, if you have that reaction.
To get back to this question very quickly, because one of the main things that bothered me, apart from everything else that bothered me and bothered everybody else here, is that whole element of, I know a friend who's an OB-GYN. She's like super dexterous. She has a ton of like all this experience and great. And I'm like, yes, because she's a practicing gynecologist. Your daughter is not. And like those are skills you learn.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of thoughts from general society and even people trying to get into medicine that being a doctor is an innate skill you have and you're born with. You're just a good doctor from the get-go. And that is unfortunately not the case. You have to practice and learn at it and build those skills.
Yeah, I'm not even going to tell you about the first time I closed a wound. It was not dexterous. It was honestly, God bless this woman. I closed your wound fine. It took a while and was not pretty.
Hey there, little Timmy. I know you're 2 years old and you want to, be a pro NFL player, but look at Patrick Mahomes throwing out Hail Marys while you can't even hold a football because you're 2 years old.
Yeah.
You just better give up on that dream right now.
He's going to kick your butt. This is true.
I'm so sorry to have to say this to you, man, but I just don't think you're at that level. You really
can't tackle a full-grown man? Good luck.
Yeah, little Timmy. I'm just going to shit on your dream right here and then.
Yeah, you, Timmy.
This is true in a lot of things, right? It's true in almost everything. Like writers. You look at a writer. If you want to be a writer, you look at a writer that you love and you're like, oh man, this is magical stuff that they're making. I could never do that. Well, what you don't see is all of the people behind that person. All of the learning that you did.
All of the drafts before the one you saw.
All of the
which
drafts.
are
all
a
the people
lot
who
worse.
Yeah, same thing with art. People are like, I can't draw. I'm not a good artist. It's like, the person whose art you're looking at has been doing that for 15 years. Their art sucked too. They just did it and got better.
Yeah, everyone starts out with stick figures, guys.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think I'm trying not to be a snob here, but I can't help it. I don't think you're studying nursing at a community college gives you a heck of a lot of
for sure. Judgment.
I just don't think you know enough yet.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, also
because it sounds like she didn't continue to work as a nurse, maybe. That's the impression
I studied
got.
nursing at community.
And so then that's even more like, I don't know that you entirely understand every health profession from that experience.
when people shit on your dreams, think about where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Right? Think about where they're coming from, why they might feel that way, and realize that they don't know shit from Shinola.
Yeah.
Just go and get her done.
Wow, good phrase.
Yeah. It's always up to you. It's your life. So choose what you're going to do.
Yeah, there's a big difference between being like, hey, if you want to do this, it's going to take a lot of work on your part because you're working with this, and just like, probably not, fam. Like, maybe just don't. Maybe just like be shit.
And I think it's also hard when it's coming from a parent because obviously a parent's opinion typically means a lot to their children. You want to, make your parents proud. And I think also with schooling and there's a lot of financial support and emotional support that parents provide their children going through school. So I think it's hard on both ends. I think it's hard for the child to stand up and say, no, this is what I'm going to do. And I know I can do it because they might lose that support. And I think it's also hard on the parent side to, if they think it's such a bad idea, to offer that support. So it's hard.
Do you think this would be a good idea for this poster's kid to basically find some mentors outside of their family and say like, hey, I'm interested in this. This is something, find
not
someone
the family friend OBGYN.
Not the family friend.
Someone that's totally unrelated to his family.
No. Usually, because a family friend OBGYN sounds like they haven't like talked with like the daughter that much. So maybe like if the family friend OBGYN like if she doesn't know about like the daughter and like all that stuff, like she would be a great mentor because she's in the field.
That's true.
Already.
I think and that'll be
even-
easier to get into. But
Not
I
the
do
mom.
think
Not
just
the mom.
make
Not your
sure
mom.
that this family OBGYN is not sharing the opinions that the mom has
Yeah.
of this like elitism of medicine.
Yeah, just like
I
do
believe
some-
I believe it's pronounced obstetrician gynecologist.
Gynecologist, yes, sorry.
yes.
That is my bad. I
Yeah.
am just a second year.
So, like, I do want to say that, like, you know, sometimes people might have dreams that are a bit unrealistic, but I mean, like, that's a lot more rare than you think it is. Like, no matter what, I don't think I can be president. You know what I mean?
People don't tend to want to set themselves up for failure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But and like if you do
I don't
have
know.
that,
Happy for president, frankly, at this point.
Anybody in America after like I'm just gonna pick a random year like 2016. Anybody living in America now, that used to be like, whoa, the highest like being president is like so good. Now it's like, it kind of feels like it's very achievable.
Maybe I could do it. Maybe I just gotta get the right
Maybe
people.
Dave for president?
Dave for
But anyway,
president.
but like what I mean to say is that like typically it doesn't take like if you try to achieve a goal and you don't hit it, and I mean years after years after years, and you have to come to that realization yourself that like maybe there might be better avenues for me to like achieve that.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think there's a difference between changing your goals, changing that dream, and not even trying.
Yes.
And
Snaps for that.
yeah, and like again, like it's way too early for the daughter to have to change her goals at this point.
Yeah.
Especially when she's being pretty successful. A's and B's.
A's and B's
I
is
got
good.
C's.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I got C's and I still got accepted.
Yeah,
so.
there you go.
Yeah.
So
I'll be reaching out to our admissions staff about that.
Believe me, Amy Ahern knows.
Yeah. I absolutely cannot, on that point, I cannot fathom the amount of like cognitive dissonance of like, my daughter's gotten some B's. She must not be that good at science.
She's
It's
probably
like,
a dumbass.
I think my daughter might be a piece of shit? Question mark?
Even though I got D's?
And I got D's and I'm like, fine.
I have one more thing that I want to say, which is that anytime somebody says to me, I tell it like I see it, or I'm just telling the truth, I'm like, you're automatically, this is the equivalent of I'm not a racist, but like,
or people who are like, I'm just so blunt.
yeah. That's just
Oh.
how I am. Take me or leave me. I'm like, F you, you're a bully.
Yeah. Quote from Knives Out 2 that I love, which is never mistake speaking without thought for speaking the truth.
Yeah. Well, on that
I
note,
cannot take credit for that. That is all
thank
Knives
you,
Out
Ryan
2.
Johnson.
Thank you, Ryan Johnson.
well, on that note, that is our show. Holly, thanks for putting this together.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Holly.
Holly.
We'll be back again next month.
Awesome.
So join us again.
And Happy, Miranda, thanks for helping us parse
It'll be good.
whether or not these people are the asshole.
I'll see you next week, Dave.
And what kind really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I won't.
He says, remembering. And what kind of idiot would I be if I didn't thank you, Shortcoats, for making us a part of your week?
If you're new here and you like what you heard today, follow the show wherever fine podcasts are available, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube, and harass Dave if you have any interesting Reddit stories you want us to talk about.
Thank you.
This show is made possible by a generous donation by the Carver College of Medicine student government and ongoing support from the Writing and Humanities program.
And our music is from Dr. Vox and Catmosphere.
And I'm Dave Etler saying, don't let the bastards grind you down. Talk to you in 1 week.
Got any grapes?
Hi, Shortcoats. Look, life in medical education, life in America, life in the world is often difficult. And I often wish I could help. All I have is this podcast, but in my wildest dreams, you have the support you need to lead a life of your choosing. You deserve to be happy, healthy, and successful in whatever ways you define those words. So if you need support because you've experienced racism, discrimination, harassment, mental health crises, I want you to be able to get the help that you need. And so I'm going to put some links in the show notes to some resources that you can use. But the bottom line is that for what it's worth, I see you. I know you're out there. I wish I could do more. Maybe I can in ways that I don't understand yet or know about. But I see you, and I'm glad you're here, and other people are too. The Short Coat Podcast is a proud member of the MedEd Media Network. Inspiration, information,